All right, well, welcome back to the Product Destination Marketing Forum. Hope all you guys are still with me. You guys are still awake, well-fed. We have a lot more presentations to go and panel discussions to go, so thank you so much for coming back for the second half of today's conference. So, moving right along, our next session, we'll be talking about destination marketing in the age of COVID-19. Now, earlier today, we heard a lot about destination marketing from both Al and Chris, as well as some other sessions. And so they're mostly from the private sector. Now this opportunity to hear from some of our public sector representatives. And we have three very different destinations joining me on stage for today's panel discussion. So without further ado, I'd like to invite my fellow panelists here up on stage. First, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage the CEO and Managing Director of the Maldives Marketing and Public Relations Corporation, also known as Visit Maldives. Big round of applause for Mr. Thoyib Mohammed. Joining him is the Director General of Tourism Marketing Department at the Vietnam National Administration of Tourism, or VNAT, Mr. Din Ngoc Duc. And last and certainly not least, the CEO of the Sabah Tourism Board, Ms. Norida Othman. So before we begin our panel discussions, we'll have a quick fire presentation from each of our three destinations represented here. Just let Norida to get settled. So I said we'll have a quick fire presentation from each of the destinations, and without further ado, Thoyib, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon. It's not a good time after lunch. Probably you will fall deep asleep. It's a big topic, destination marketing in the age of COVID-19. So I thought I will write it down a little bit. In 5 minutes, Paul, I'm going to finish it. It gives me a great pleasure to address all of you today at the Part Destination Marketing Forum to discuss how destinations can persevere and market effectively during the pandemic and how we did it. How the Maldives as a destination handled the crisis, how we are now gearing towards the recovery of travel, and how we came out stronger and more resilient than ever before. As you know, we at Visit Maldives take part in various regional and world events as well as forums like this one to promote the Maldives. During the past 2 years, our focus has been on working together with the industry to tackle the challenges faced by COVID-19, and our tourism sector has been extremely successful. For the first time in our nation's history, the gates of the Maldives was closed on March 2019, and we opened on July after only 4 months of lockdown. Still, during these difficult 2 years, we secured the title of world's leading destination for 2 consecutive years. Although we dropped to 500,000 tourists in 2020, which is the lockdown period, this figure jumped to over 1.3 million in 2021. And we are nearing the 1 millionth tourist mark this year in coming few weeks, inshallah. And I'm proud to announce that the Maldives is now closing in on pre-pandemic arrival figures. We have now come to understand that disruption caused by waves of infections in various regions will continue for at least the foreseeable future. We must keep our house in order still. We must be vigilant and maintain the highest safety standards so that we can sustain the excellent recovery we are seeing today. It is this vigilance and unrelenting dedication to prioritizing health, safety, and well-being that led to the success of Maldives tourism industry during the pandemic. During this time, we heavily promoted the destination's safety for all travelers. With stringent guidelines and the blessing of the scattered geographical nature of the Maldivian archipelago, the naturally socially distant islands, as we like to put it. The Maldives prioritize the health, safety, and well-being of our residents and our travelers from the very beginning of the pandemic. We launched a campaign, I'm Vaccinated, to promote the vaccination efforts in the Maldives and make Maldives tourism visible as the most vaccinated in the world. It was also this dedication that to the Maldives being stamped with the Safe Travels label on September 18, 2020 by the World Tourism Council. We believe that this helped people around the world understand that the Maldives really is one of the safest places in the world to vacation after the onset of the pandemic. If we think about it, one important aspect that has been highlighted during the pandemic is the power of science and technology. As you will no doubt recall, at the beginning of the pandemic, we thought it would take many years for a vaccine to be delivered successfully. However, the speed at which vaccines for the new virus was developed just stands to show the power of science and technology in today's world. Visit Maldives, we are embracing technology as it comes. At the onset of the pandemic, we immediately moved to the online platforms and completely re-strategized our marketing plans. Today, these platforms become the norm. Rather than taking it as a challenge, we have taken it as an opportunity. The use of the technology necessitated due to the pandemic has in fact created greater access to the world. Today, we conduct a multitude of events and campaigns on varying platforms. During the last 2 years, we reach out to potential customers in various markets through online roadshows, webinars, fairs, and virtual reality experiences. We also carried out numerous visibility campaigns during which most countries were under a lockdown. We knew at that time they cannot travel. Still, we wanted to make a presence of Maldives there and wanted them to visit us when things get better. Ultimately, the perseverance of the Maldivian people was exceptional. Diversification of our product offerings was another important element that helped market our product and the Maldives as a destination in these trying times. We are trying to redefine the way MICE is seen through a traveler. The future of the Maldives tourism industry is bright, full of promise and potential. We consider this the perfect time to roll our sleeves and continue to make the changes we need for the future, to maintain our position ahead of the curve, as we have done before. Thank you, Pata. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Toyib. And now our next presenter is the Director General of Tourism Marketing at VNAT, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Din Nok Tuk.
So I click. Okay. Your Excellency, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is my pleasure to attend this important event and share with you the information about Vietnam tourism and thought on destination marketing. As on our slide before COVID-19, tourism in Vietnam has been growing very fast. From 2015 to 2019, the number of international arrivals to Vietnam jumped up 2.3 times, from almost 8 million to 18 million. The average growth rate during that period was almost 23% per year. And tourism activities created the total receipt of 33 billion US dollar in 2019. And more than 66% of the inbound tourists come from Northeast Asia, while European Southeast Asia are over 12 and 11%. The others are America, Oceania, Africa, and over 8% in total. Almost 10 years now, the slogan Vietnam Timeless Charm and the stylized lotus logo are officially used as identity of Vietnam tourism, which associated with four main tourist product lines, namely sun and beach, nature-based, culture in which heritage, local lifestyle, cuisine as the main focus, and also the big city. So thanks to the outstanding performance, Vietnam was given lots of awards by World Tourism Awards. The World Leading Heritage 2019, 2020, and as many awards, and 4 consecutive years as Asia leading destination for golf, which is now we are focused on. And ladies and gentlemen, of course, for almost 2 years, closed by COVID-19, and since 15th of March this year, we do open for international tourists and also domestic. And we launched a new campaign, namely Live Fully in Vietnam, to introduce you to our beautiful Vietnam, which will awaken your senses with our culture, nature, and people. And I show you the video clip about our campaign. Oh, I cannot.
Open your senses. Just go. Open yourself to a level of care you'll only find in Vietnam. Go and explore. Relax. And play. Feel alive. Live fully in Vietnam.
And for tourism products, now we are besides for products, as I mentioned before, it's beach, nature-based, culture, and city-based. Now we highlighted many supporting products like adventure, wellness, family, luxury, and golf. Because of the COVID, we also make some little change. Before we only focus on international. But because of COVID, now we also focus on domestic. And as you know that in first 6 months of this year, we already have 60 million domestic tourists, which almost fulfill the target of this year. And we can see that international tourists to Vietnam now going and growing very fast. In 4 months, in May, we received the number of tourists, international tourists, double than that of the April. And in June, we received the number 4 times higher than the May. So we think that, and we hope that, with the collaboration, tourists come to Vietnam as the other country in our regions will be booming and come back to the high level of the 2019, the year before COVID-19. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Duke. And our last speaker from the Sabah Tourism Board is Ms. Norida Othman.
Thank you very much, and thank you to PATA for allowing me to participate in this forum, and thank you to both of our speakers before that. My name is Norida Othman, and I am with the Sabah Tourism Board. If you're not familiar with Sabah Tourism Board, perhaps you are more familiar with Tourism Malaysia. So the difference between me and the two kind gentlemen there is they are NTOs, basically National Tourist Organization, whereas I am from the state, one of the 13 states in Malaysia. And although we have a national tourist board, but we also, different states have their own tourist board, and hence we have Sabah Tourism Board. Today, a quick run-up. Basically, I'd like to share with you the history of what tourism in Sabah has gone through, talking about resilience during this pandemic. If you see here, the statistics, Sabah as a state have gone through many, many challenges in the past 20 years. What happens in Singapore in SARS will affect us. What happens in the aviation industry also affects us. So as you all know, tourism is a sunset industry. It's also an industry that is very, very sensitive towards political scenario, health, as we all know now, and any other challenges that we as a region faces. So in the past 20 years, we have gone through our ups and downs, and this also shows while facing all those challenges, we've also seen the upward trend in visitors' arrivals in Sabah. Hence, we feel that we are resilient, but different challenges requires different ways of marketing. As you can see here, our visitors' arrival growth in Sabah is about 6.8% on an average annual growth before pandemic. And for our tourism receipts, it's about 10.5 annual growth. The peak of tourism for Sabah was in 2019, just before the 2020, the start of the pandemic hit us globally. And China, as well as South Korea, were our two biggest markets in Sabah, actually contributed about 65% of the international visitors' arrivals to the state. And why these two main countries were our biggest contributors to the state? Basically, we are geographically close to both states, both countries basically. So Sabah, as you can see here on the map, we are in the heart of Southeast Asia. We are within the 6 hours flight from the main hubs, main cities in Southeast Asia. We're only about 2.5 hours away from Kuala Lumpur, our national capital, about 2.5 hours away from Singapore. Bangkok, we are almost 3 hours away, and we have direct flights from Bangkok. 4.5 hours away from Shanghai. Tokyo is about 5 hours away. 1 hour and 45 minutes away from Manila. So we are located in the heart of Southeast Asia. When we reopen our border, as a state, we follow the regulation as well as the decision made by the National Committee. When we reopen our borders, or rather Malaysia reopened its borders on the 1st of April, and to date, from January to June of 2022, we have seen a very quick rise in the arrivals compared to last year's first 6 months. If you see here, total arrivals into Sabah has gone leaps and bounds since we have opened our borders. And we'd like to think that during the pandemic, when we continued our conversation with our international partners, our tourism friends, tourism fraternity, that we have done something right. So from January to June 2021, rather 2022, sorry, we have seen an increase of at least 500% compared to last year's January to June 2021, since we lifted the restriction and allowed interstate travel in Malaysia. And the international arrivals, since we reopened our borders from January to June 2022, we have at least over 2,000% increase. And we've only opened from April, 1st of April, basically. And in Sabah, we depend a lot on air accessibility. 90% of our arrivals is by air. Hence, the connectivity is very important for us. And since opening our borders, we have seen at least 17%, or rather 17 international direct flights into Sabah, about 19% increase since before the border opened. Our key strategies for the year is basically rebuilding consumers' confidence, as I think a couple of speakers have said, word to word mouth, very important. Engaging with key opinion leaders, engaging in digital marketing, enhancing potential segments, and we have looked at our niche markets, diving, golfing, bird watching, supporting the industry. We have been working hard together with our industry people to make sure that they sustain through the pandemic. And last but not least, re-establishing air connectivity. That is part of the marketing that we have done in Sabah. And like I said earlier on, with the reopening of the borders, we have seen leaps and bounds the number of arrivals that have come into Sabah, especially from our traditional markets, especially the European market. And we see that the confidence in travelers has increased, and also the number of possibilities that we are looking at in terms of engaging, again, with our partners and recruiting new partners for the state. With that, thank you very much. We'll get to question and answers now.
Yep.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you very much, Norida. So we've heard from three very different destinations, and three different sort of strategies. Now, Toy, you said you were one of the first destinations to open. You were very successful, the success story. But let's go back to during the pandemic. You know, everything changed almost daily. So how did you how is your strategy to sort of adjusted on a daily basis to deal with this sort of different situations as they came along? So new variants or new closures or openings. What was your strategy and how did you sort of address that issue?
Yeah, as I said, it was a difficult situation. Nobody knew what was happening at that time. We didn't know what will happen tomorrow. Everybody thought this is the end, kind of. But to answer the question, after 4 months, we thought we totally depend on tourism. There's nothing we can do without it. And people are getting so bored, so restless, you know. There's no economic activity. So we thought, okay, we have to start with stringent safety measures. That's the key point. The authority, the president even, listened to the health sector, health professionals. They were the people who were leading. They said, we have to do this in the touch points, airports, even the ferries, the aircrafts, everything has to be taken really good measures recommended by the health authorities. We sometimes get so frustrated, but what to do? We have to listen to them. So, but still, we started. Of course, it was very difficult. People were getting positive day in and day out, so much of casualties, but still, there were so many health professionals voluntarily working as well to take care of what's happening. So the resorts itself, we were so lucky, geographically, we are very blessed with very isolated resorts in itself. So basically, the unfortunate thing is some of the staff cannot go to their home like for 5-6 months because we had a regulation where nobody will be able to move from one island to the other island, so that even if this island is, in fact, there's some cases, the other would be very safe. So even the tourists cannot go from one island to the other. So basically, but still, that was the start. And then from that, we have come like almost 2 years now, and we have learned such a really good lessons, in fact. And I think we will take it very positively. Yeah, very positively.
Yeah, I mean, Maldives has been a success story for how to deal with the COVID pandemic. As you said, you guys were always doing a lot of promotions virtually throughout the pandemic over the past 2 years. But the next question goes to Mr. Duk and Norida. While your destinations only opened up earlier this year, were you doing any promotions during the time your borders were still closed? And if you were, what was that communications that you were sending out?
Yes. During COVID-19, everything is so difficult. But anyway, as during my presentations, we change. Now we change and we pay more attention to domestic. So for domestic, we realize that we have 100 million Vietnamese people. So we launch the campaign, Vietnamese people visit Vietnam. So we promote domestic tourism. For international, we try to do more e-marketing. We have several messages like stay home with Vietnam. So on our website, vietnam.travel, we try to give tourists some the way cook Vietnamese, some cuisine, very similar, but they can try. We post on some picture about the heritage and landscape of Vietnam, similar one, and the kid can paint that pictures. And then we also create the Vietnam Now, in which we update the information, update the products on our website, our social media to tourists. So we confident that there will be a comeback, that COVID can be over, then we can keep in touch with the source market.
And Norda, you're different, right? I mean, you're a state of one of the states of Malaysia, so you're beholden to the federal government. Then how do you balance that, right? You can't make any different decisions outside of what the federal government does. So how do you sort of now, as the destinations opened up, how do you balance that, your marketing strategy, to be in line with tourism in Malaysia, but also to be different and unique from the other 17 or other states of Malaysia?
Thanks, Paul. Although we are a state focused on marketing the state, however, we like to say we complement the efforts done by the National Tourist Board, Tourism Malaysia, basically. And as you know, for us as a state, we are able to focus more on how we want to position our state to our partners as well as visitors outside Malaysia. And even during the pandemic, we continue our conversation with all our partners, especially the airlines, Tourism Malaysia offices all over the world. They have over 30 offices around the world, and we continue the conversation, continue updating them of the current situation that's happening in Sabah. And what's important is that we are transparent. Yeah, we tell them of what's happening. And although there is another body that decides on what's happening to the country, but we also have a state-level emergency crisis committee that is led by the state secretary. So although we do parallel things with Tourism Malaysia, but we are also able to focus on certain things in order to promote and continue positioning Sabah as a destination.
So a bit of wiggle room between the national strategy and your own
Yes.
and your own interests. Now, of course, many destinations in this region have now opened up, so it's become a very competitive landscape. So I'm going to ask all of you, how do you sort of stand out, separate yourself from the other destinations where, China is still closed, other destinations aren't as accessible. You probably wouldn't focus on, let's say, Japan, because that's not really, for them to leave and come back, it's not really sort of viable for them. So how do you make yourself stand out in sort of the current landscape? Toyib?
I think we have to keep the momentum going. What we have started during the pandemic, the visibility campaigns, all the other campaigns, the social media, everything has to be always running and up. And as she rightly said, we have to be so vigilant with what's happening as well. But at the same time, we have to focus more on marketing. That's what we have found out. There were very few destinations who were focusing on marketing. Rather, they were saving themselves. But I think it's not the right thing to do. But we actually doubled our efforts during that time, and it showed. Because at that time, the travel trend was changing. Nobody could move out their house even. But still, they have that, they want to travel, they want to get out of the place. They want to get out. They are so bored. So everybody has to take advantage of it. And what I think as a destination, what we did was let them, be a little bit more tempted towards traveling. And we are seeing a lot of new trends happening. Even the millennials are spending so much, but of course now what we are seeing is they're traveling for experiences, not just go on and lie down on a beach. So we have to focus on that aspect of it and market that more, kind of showing what we have got, what they have got. The experiences matters, definitely, and that's what we are trying to do, and we have to keep it going. Yeah.
Mr. Duk, your thoughts on that? How are you going to sort of stand out in sort of the crowded market right now, a very competitive market right now?
In fact, we understand that, all of us understand that during the COVID-19, a lot of travel agents, tour operators, and investors get a lot of difficult time. A lot of business community get bankruptcy. But we try to encourage who still stay on to refresh their products, develop new products. And in fact, some big group like Wind Group, Sun Group, they still invest a lot of money to develop the complex like in Phuket Island. We have a Wind Group to develop giant complex Wind Wonder. So tourists come there and they have everything within area. Sun Group, they also develop new products somewhere and they try to keep the trend. So we think that we prepare for post-COVID-19. And I agree with my partner from Maldives that we try to do some promotional through e-marketing. And now we can say that experience. You can live fully in Vietnam. You can get everything. And in some new destinations, we have new products, new experience. And now we open from 15th of March, Vietnam open. No restrictions, so tourists can come. So we think that, and the other side of the tourism for a country is a region, we think that besides competitions, we also collaborations like if Vietnam connect with Thailand, Malaysia, we have the ASEAN countries, we have ASEAN better destinations. We can promote ASEAN to Europe, to US, so that we think that for tourism, two things, compete to each other and collaboration with each other.
Kind of like Saba, right? I mean, you're not just competing with other destinations, you're competing with other states, right? So you have a bigger challenge on that. Now, how do you address that and sort of, how do you address that then? You're competing with Sarawak and KL and the other states there.
Well, earlier on someone said about collaboration, and I think this is when we really must look at collaboration. We must complement each other, and we do that with other states. We know what other states can offer, and we know what we have to offer, and the most important thing is we're able to complement each other, and that means we have more offerings for those people who want to visit Malaysia. But at the same time, for us in Sabah, relationship marketing plays a big role for us in Sabah. Hence why I said earlier on we have transparent conversation with all our partners overseas and also partners that we've had for many, many years. And that's very important because during this pandemic, this is when we need each other. We're able to play on the empathy part of it and even the airlines. One example is, although our borders were closed, no airline could land in Sabah, but we had a flight to nowhere collaboration with the airlines, the Korean-based airlines in Korea, in Seoul. They had flight to nowhere, flight to Kota Kinabalu, but they fly up and circle in their airspace and come down again. But it was full. Everyone went on board, and they were supposedly flying to Kota Kinabalu. Yeah, so that kind of collaboration is very important with us, as well as the airlines, as well as the rest of the other states in Malaysia.
Well, great to hear that. Now that all of your destinations are open, what are the key trends you're seeing from the visitors that are sort of have been coming to your destination? What are you seeing that over the past few months or for you over the past few years? What's the trends of travelers these days and behavior?
Yeah, one important thing is the travel booking period has shortened. Like even from US, that far, they just take about a week to 2 weeks time for booking period.
From the long haul market of
long
US?
haul, yeah.
Okay.
It has changed a lot, as I said. And even, it's like us, like I used to joke about Maldivians. Let's go to Sri Lanka, let's go to Singapore. The next day or the next weekend that you fly. I think it's the same here now. With the pandemic, people's travel trends has changed a lot, and the room nights has increased. What we have found out. Usually it was about 5 to 7 nights in Maldives, but now it's like 9 on average. And then during the difficult times, there were some tourists who stayed like 4 or 5 months working from home as it is. And It's a good excuse to say, oh, I'm working. And I want to elaborate on what she said, collaboration. It's very important, but we also took, was joint marketing campaign. We started a lot with the airlines because they are the people who carry you. It's not only the travel agents. So we thought, okay, we will do it. Please come. We will start a marketing campaign with you. We will share the cost as well. So that way we were encouraging new airlines to start, and that's something very important, I think.
It's like a co-op marketing campaign with the airlines or with the travel agents. What about for to Vietnam? Any key trends you're seeing from tourists coming in?
I think for domestic first, yes, we see a lot of changes in the way the Vietnamese people travel. They travel with a small groups, family, weekend, short distance, and driving themselves. But just because of just after COVID, but I see a lot of changes soon after that, because I don't know, but Vietnamese people, they easy to forget COVID. First, they worry, then for a while, they forget. And I think that depends on our products. We say that now if some destinations, they can diversify products, they still get them, they stay longer, they have bigger groups. For international, frankly speaking, that China, Korea, and Japan still biggest source market for us. But for now, China is still closed. Korea is not much. Japan is not much. So that we cannot see the change of their mind. But I think yes. Now we can say that some change to compare with before COVID-19. But if we do good products, we can serve them diversified products and convince them that they stay longer. They will stay longer. If we have good products, we have good marketing promotion, we think that they can come back, stay longer, spend more time. For Vietnam, for example, now we try to develop the golf, where small number of tourists, but they stay longer, and they come back and come back. They spend a lot of money. So I think the most important is how is your source market, how is your products, how is your promotions, so that we can target the market that we aim at. And then we try to convince them to come, stay longer, spend more money.
I think it's a plan for most destinations, get them to stay longer and spend more. Anything you're seeing from people coming to Sabah? Any sort of something that you just didn't expect of travelers entering and staying?
Well, we have, for Sabah, we have the domestic and the international arrivals. Domestic travelers have always been very important for us. And what we saw with the closure of the border, a lot of Malaysians started traveling interstate. And that really helped sustain the industry, basically. So for us in Sabah Tourism Board, we are very concerned about making sure that our players are able to sustain throughout the pandemic. And also, we're able to educate and upskill our players. So we've also run upskilling training programs during the pandemic. These are one of the ways for us to able to sustain them and to make sure that they are ready when the borders are open. And for Sabah, we see that as soon as our borders were open, we even had students flying all the way across from the UK, from Europe, to visit Sabah on school trips. So recently, last week, we had a Think Global school where we have about 37 students coming from all over the world, 20 different destinations, converging and meeting in Sabah. So we see even students are starting to travel already. And out of Korea, we see many families, single people also traveling. So there's no specific segment of the market that are traveling, but across the board, it's open and everyone's traveling. Part of it is probably the pent-up demand that we see all across the world. And as you know, not just Sabah, but everyone has shortage of manpower. So as much as you want to open 100%, a lot of our players are only able to cope at least 70 to 80%. So this is how we look. It's still very fluid for us, very fluid. And for us as a destination marketing arm, we need to be adaptable since the situation is still very fluid. We're not out of it yet. We're not out of COVID yet, so we have to understand that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're just on the point of turning upwards, but
Yeah.
just the very start. It's not going to be overnight. The topic of human capital development is a whole nother discussion. I know it's affecting everyone across the sectors. It's something that we'll be talking about at the annual summit. So if you haven't registered now, do join us at the annual summit. We'll be having many discussions regarding human capital development. We are out of time, so thank you very much to our panelists here, Doya, Mr. Duk, and Norita. Thank you so much. Big round of applause for my panelists here. Thank you. Now we've come to the next session. We heard a little bit about gastronomy tourism, and now I should get more deeper into that subject. So the next session is Seizing the Potential of Gastronomy Tourism. And with that, please welcome to the stage the moderator for this session, the chair at the Pacific Asia Travel Association. Big round of applause for Mr. Peter Simone.
Good afternoon, everyone. While they're setting up, I realize that I've been on holiday for 2 months because I worked throughout the COVID crisis. I was in Timor-Leste. And so in my 2 months, I've traveled to the Maldives, to Thailand, to Indonesia, and to America. And I realize that I've been enjoying gastronomy tourism too much because this morning, when I put on my suit, I realized that I can't really close my jacket anymore. And 2 months ago, I could. So gastronomy tourism, I'm definitely an advocate for it. How many of you like food? Raise your hand if you like food. Interesting, yeah. One of the things that, so I was invited to the Maldives on behalf of the UN WTO to moderate a session on gastronomy tourism, and I thought to myself, I don't know anything about gastronomy tourism. And now I get the chance to once again moderate a session. So I've got a couple of really interesting people to help us to unpack this idea of gastronomy tourism, because while it's a natural that it's linked to tourism, I'm not sure that our industry has always really thought about the idea of gastronomy tourism and how we can link it to marketing of destinations and the development and management of our destinations. We've got 3 panelists. The first I'd like to invite is Dr. Nawamin Pinpat Pomrat. I made a mess of your name, I'm sorry. Pinpat Homrat. Pinpat Homrat. And then Audra, who was with us earlier today. Welcome back, Audra. I've got a lot of things to discuss with you based on some of the things you said this morning. And also a very long-standing dear friend of mine, Duangmala Pomavong from the Lao PDR. So if I can get everybody to come up, please. Welcome, everybody. Welcome. Let's have some fun. I think we need to, one of the things that's really interesting, and I'll let all of you share your bios. You're a medical doctor, You
I
were
am.
in telecommunications, and now you guys are in food. And Duang Mala is a tour operator, but also involved in food supply in Lao PDR. So maybe the first thing I'll do is just maybe each of you can introduce yourself a little bit and maybe briefly give your perspective about what gastronomy tourism is, or I know you think it's gastronomic tourism, and we can debate that as well, because why isn't it food tourism? But introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about what you think about this whole topic of food and tourism and its link.
Yeah. Oh, wow. So I literally was in a medical conference in the morning, and now I'm in a food conference in the afternoon. So for me, I'm a doctor by training, and I went to the UK for my master and PhD, and I ended up on MasterChef UK 2018, accidentally, And then, it just changed my life. I have been working in a few restaurants. I have opened my own restaurant as well, so I have been traveling a lot. I eat a lot, as you can tell, that I can't actually basically, yeah. So I now a chef, and also I'm doing some research on COVID-19 vaccine as well. And I did my PhD in Oxford AstraZeneca in Oxford, so we know that vectors very well. So try of juggle between doctor, scientist, and being a chef as well.
I love it.
That's what I'm trying to
Fantastic.
do.
That's really, really interesting.
So food for me, obviously, everyone loves to eat. I love to eat. Growing up eating food from my grandma, my mom, and I think food is something that's very close to your heart. It's close to your stomach as well, don't get me wrong. But it's very close to your heart because the recipe, the culture, it's there. It's rich in culture, it's rich in flavor, and it's rich in emotion as well for me.
Thank you, Naroman. Audra? You've managed to maintain your slimness as compared to the two of us.
Oh, yeah. You don't have kids, do you?
Wow.
Okay,
No,
have children and run a business and look after, well, no, I'm just kidding. I call it the good Indian genes in me, that works well. I'm the same, actually. So I spent 19 years in telecommunication and then decided to join MasterChef in Australia 1 year after, 3 years of contemplation, and got through to the finals and came out, ditched the corporate gig and started my own cooking business. So I've been cooking for the past 10 years. But what's amazing is I do believe that food is a way to connect a lot of industries, a lot of people. It's really a way to connect people, and I'm involved in so many different things at the moment, and I love it. If you open a restaurant sometimes, and if you're the chef of the restaurant, you're actually quite committed to that restaurant, and you're bogged down with that restaurant. But someone also told me if you want to earn $2 million, you start with one in the restaurant business. So no, I've got too much of a business background to know that it's a tough gig. It's a real tough gig. So I run a catering business in Sydney, so I do a lot of private dining. And the beauty of that is also you get to have lots of different types of clients. You cook, you work with them to kind of work out food that might work for them. But for me, a lot of it is heritage-based food. So it's a form of education as well. You're educating your diners in terms of what your culture is all about. I'm massive about that, and so I talk about it all the time. If I cook for them, I explain the food they're eating, why it's cooked a certain way, and why they're eating it, and where it comes from, And yeah, they say that food is, it's a bit like nostalgia. When you cook food of your heritage, it creates, the brain kind of releases dopamine. Doctor might be able to help me out here, but that's a feel-good chemical, isn't it? So who doesn't feel good after eating a good meal? It's great. So why don't we use that as a tool in travel?
Thank you, Audra. Duang Mala, tell us a little bit about yourself and maybe some of your initial thoughts on food and tourism.
I have to say that professionally working in tourism 20 years, of course, as the DMC, before we present the product to the agents or to tourists, we have to try it by ourselves. So it means that a lot of inspection, a lot of trying many dishes at the restaurant. So, but all that is professional. Personally, I love cooking. I love go to the fresh market in everywhere that I travel through. I even success to my friends when we go to holiday with many friends that I cook for them during the holidays. But I will not clean up the kitchen. That is the rule. So, who want to travel on holiday with me? You have to clean up after I cook. So, and food and tourists, I think it's something that we can't separate, because everyone, when you're traveling or not, you have to eat. So that is the reality. But come back to the tourism. So at Exo Travel, we always try to do something different. So just before the pandemic of COVID-19, we launched a program called Foodie Tour. So it means at Vientiane is the capital of Laos, but most of tourists just pass by. You know, they have probably just one day stay at this city. So how we can show them that we had a lot of restaurants there. So we did the program with the dinner 5 hours. So the program starts at 5 p.m. and finish at 11. So they go from street food to 5-star hotel. That the chef come to meet them, and then it's organized special for them. And they love it. They love it. So, and yesterday, no, the second, when I arrived here in Songkhla, so we have 3 evenings. So I try it myself. So I have the dinner with 5 restaurants. I try everything that is the famous of Songkhla around my hotel. I don't go to whole city, but just around my hotel. And I found it very, very good idea to discover the city, the culture, how the local people eat. So it's amazing. It's amazing. So that is.
Thank you, Duang Mala. I'd like to talk about, let's talk about marketing, or demand side, and then supply side. And we had a number of marketing gurus that came up here today. Can each of you name an iconic cuisine that has helped that country to develop tourism as a result of their cuisine?
That's a very hard question.
I know it's a hard question.
I think for me, obviously, the answer is Thailand. And it's obviously Thai food. I think it's bring people. Well, so the campaign that I really like is Eat Thai, Visit Thai. Obviously, people around the world know Thai food. Everyone know green curry. Everyone know pad Thai. Everyone know tom yum kung and everything. So by promoting this thing, people think that flavor that I miss in Thailand, that flavor of that ferocious hot tom yum kung with that acidity of that broth, it's almost bring you back to Thailand already. So I think that if we can promote, certain dishes and have the face of Thai cuisines out there, obviously you're going to have Thai cuisine in LA. Obviously you're going to have Thai restaurant in London. So you have Thai restaurant in everywhere around the world. And that will bring people saying like, okay, that you love Thai food, you come to Thailand and experience the real thing. That I think is actually very effective, and I think people would love to come. And I think don't want this kind of thing to happen, that when they come and we try to westernize it, we try to make it creamy, we try to let it less spicy. So when I went on the show on MasterChef, I make like crab yellow curry, and they cried. Not just because the flavor is just so spicy, but this is the flavor that my grandma taught me to cook. I wouldn't be comfortable to season the curry by adding less chili in it. But I think that we try to, advocate, we try to showcase our food, and we have to show it properly. And I think they will come to the country and travel and eat and everything after that.
Yeah, and there was the TAT did a video a couple of years ago about pad thai.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Can you describe that? Maybe some other people haven't, but it was great how they went through the history and linked it into the destination.
Yeah, I think it's food is everything for me. It's just showing the culture, showing the history, showing the country. And, you know, as a Thai person, to have been in the UK and you see pad Thai made from ketchup, it's kind of, are you serious? Like literally ketchup and pad Thai? So I think the history of pad Thai is like, you know, we use rice noodle because we try to make, you know, Chinese dish to be Thai. And we use palm sugar from a lovely sauce from Thailand. We use the tamarind, and we use a lovely fish sauce to make a lovely pad Thai sauce. And we make a lovely pad Thai with a lot of, you know, tofu, bean sprout, something that we didn't think that it would come together. And that thing, when cooked in other country or in other Thai restaurant, it needs to be like this. It needs to be proper, just to say that this is Thai.
Audrey, you can't use Thai food. You got to use a
I feel like
different
eating
one.
pad Thai now.
Oh
Yeah,
my
I know.
God.
I feel like eating pad Thai
You made it
also.
sound so delicious.
But iconic food, but it can't be Thai food. And Wang
Okay.
Mala, you can't either.
Look, I'll talk about my own birth country, and that's Singapore. It's chili crab, right?
Oh my gosh.
However, that has evolved. My big mantra now when I travel and I talk is Singapore is not just about chili crab and Orchard Road. So it is. I mean, if it depends who you talk to. If you talk to the older generation, there's still that traditional element that Singapore is about chili crab. But try the black pepper crab. Try the white pepper crab. Those two are just unbelievable. I'm kind of with. I'm kind of with you in what you said earlier about the fact that we tend to dumb it down for the tourists, right? So I consulted for the Fullerton in Sydney, and it was really to teach the chefs how to cook authentic Singaporean cuisine. And there is a real technique in cooking your rempah down, your paste down. And when we talk about oil splitting from the paste, it's a technique, right? But we would have guests coming in asking for, can I have a mild version of the laksa? And until I got there, they said, okay. So when I got there, I said, no, you're not, there's no mild version of laksa. Because if you dilute it with coconut milk, you lose all the beautiful flavors, the balance of flavors just goes out the door, you know. So for me, it's I don't know, I mean, it's really hard to kind of explain to people that, and that goes back to what I was talking about earlier. You know what? People need a little bit of pushing sometimes. You just need to coax them into it, and we can do it, you know. And it's emotional. Just take them on that emotional journey, convince them to give it a go. I'll have a glass of milk there for them, but that's okay, you know. Experience it. Yeah.
So Thai food, pad Thai, Singapore food, chili crab. Okay. Wang Mala?
So Lao food.
But of course.
Lao food is a lab, because it's a lab. So lab is the mix-up of, could be fish, could be meat, could be pork, could be chicken or duck. So, but it's true that I would like to continue for both of you talking about the authentic of food. So I think that each cuisine have their own authenticity. So, and if we want to continue that, and then can to show to the tourists that this is the real taste of the cuisine. Of course, they have many ways to do. You are chef, you can do better than anyone. What we try to do in Laos, as the ingredients of Lao food is become difficult to find out because it's not industry, it's really local product. For example, the ot lam from Luang Prabang provinces, and then they put a kind of wood that smell like mint, and this wood is found only in the forest. So we have Lao Food Foundation in United States that they have a lot of chefs of Lao restaurant instead that try to do something to preserve the ingredient that is difficult to find. So, and they work with the Lao local restaurant to help each other. At the beginning is to preserve the ingredients, but after the second project, and they found that they can help more than that. They can help to improve how to promote Lao food abroad. So it's linked to tourism, and also it's linked to the Lao people living abroad, the second, the third generation as well. So they used to eat Lao food with their grandparents, but when come to the generation, they don't know how to cook. They don't know which ingredient to put in. So this is the idea that not only for tourism, when we do the preserve of the authenticity of the food, it's about also the transfer of the culture to the next generation. So this is...
I think that's very beautifully said. I think it's transfer the culture, transfer the flavor to next generation. I think we have to educate the people who come to the country, or when they go to the restaurant, it's just with green curry, red curry, yellow curry. It's not just the color. It's there for reasons. So if you know you want to have like something spicy, you go for yellow curry. Like if you're less spicy, green curry. If you can't handle the heat, red curry is not spicy at all. The massaman curry is sweet and potato and everything. So I think that you can't just, obviously I want to sell food. I own a restaurant now. I literally I don't want my staff to say, oh, okay, you can't have green curry if you handle spice. Just offer them something else. How about the red curry? We do it beautifully here. We make the coconut milk with the fresh paste and nice and sweet. I think you will love it. Are you with me?
Yes, I'm totally with you. I got it.
See? Yeah.
Hey, Audra, so somebody walks into a restaurant in such, sounds like I'm starting a joke, but it's not really a joke. Somebody walks into a restaurant in Sydney, let's say it's a Thai restaurant. So getting back to this marketing thing, somebody walks in there. Can the result of eating at that Thai restaurant, like Al Merchant was talking about, actually stimulate, like, oh, honey, maybe we should go on a trip to Thailand? Is that possible through that food experience?
Definitely. And it's not just the food that you eat. What's really important is the person that's serving you, the person that's selling you the story, right? So many times I've gone to restaurants and people go, I might have I don't know, maybe it's someone who's been to the country, the server have been to the country or comes from that country, and they'll go like, this is exactly what it's like in my hometown, I totally recommend this dish, and this is how you eat it. And we're like, what are we doing here? We should go, It does instigate this thought of travel, most definitely. I want to touch on something that this beautiful lady here mentioned before, and about cooking, about the industry cooking for tourists. We actually should be cooking one dish, and it should be both for tourists and locals. Because I think a lot of people found that during the difficult last couple of years that we had, 3 years, whatever it was, you lost your majority of your business. But if the locals are there to support it because the food is authentic and good and delicious, and that's sustainability, isn't it? In its whole form, right? But yeah, sorry, I just wanted to make that point. But most definitely.
Okay. Let's shift to the destination side, and I think all of us understand in this room the reason that countries engage in tourism is for economic development and social development. So how is food tourism or gastronomy tourism helping to grow the local economy, helping to create job opportunities, helping to create entrepreneurial opportunities, all of those other things? Any thoughts on that? And the whole supply chain, because there's a value chain, Audra, which you were talking about during your presentation. So I'd be curious to hear that side of the food story and tourism.
I think food is the heart of everything. Now, you know, I was a doctor. Well, I'm still a doctor. I was. Well, no, sorry. I'm still a doctor. Now I'm an owner chef in the restaurant, and I can see that if you support the local, if you use vegetable that's growing next door to you, you use fish, you know, locally in Songkhla, or you use, you know, palm sugar in Satingpla. So that thing is, you know, support the local. Obviously, it must be easier to go to the supermarket and get just, you know, cups of sugar, get, you know, frozen fish and everything. But that's not what the food for, right? Food is about heart and soul, the recipe, the local, the freshness of ingredients. That is always, I have been told to my grandma, my mom say, like, if it's not good, if it's not fresh, don't cook it. Yeah. Literally, because of, obviously, your mom not going to get like bad fat. It have been in the freezer for 3 months. And I was like, you come back from school, this is your fried fish. I was like, I probably have been, you know, taught well on that. So I will not do that to my customer. And by doing that, you create job. You create the small SME. Because of, if they do like palm sugar, if you get them like, you know, for example, 10 kilo, and your business expand, you can say that, now I want 100. Can we work together? Can you have any friends who do the palm sugar, in the palm sugar industry? Let's work together. I'm expanding my restaurant to Bangkok. Now I need you to work with me. We grow together, and actually these people will support you, because of, in food industry, that's very important, is the ingredients, the food cost. You know, the price of the ingredients is very important. If you're going to make money from this industry, you need to get good and cheap ingredients. And you need to buy it direct to the source, and you have to get it seasonal. And that, you know, I very enjoy working with it, because I can sell to my customer saying, we have only 3 prawns today because the fishmonger just got 3 and it's fresh. If you want more, we can put a frozen one, and I don't think you would love that. So be honest with your customer, be honest with yourself, and be honest with the supplier.
Supply chain is very important, and if we can keep it as local as possible, and I think everybody here, if I look at all the different countries, there is something in each and every country that they excel in terms of what they can grow. The climate is suitable for certain types of dishes, and you'll find that traditionally, this is how people used to do it in the day, you know. This is growing in my backyard, I'm going to use this to cook. So I pluck it, I go into my kitchen, and I cook it. You know, that's how we used to do it in the old days, right? I mean, I'm talking like I'm 100, but I think we're adopting that more and more these days, and you'll find a lot of restaurants now are going back to cooking on charcoals, cooking with wood, you know, less gas, less direct gas, less, I mean, everybody does everything, but mostly they're going back to that. But I also want to mention that we've got to be, your talk about the whole sustainability in food, tourism, we need to be careful that it's not just about making money, because you lose consciousness of the importance of maintaining the word authenticity, and I think Al covered that a little bit earlier. Sometimes I don't know if people know what it means to be authentic, you know. And so I use the word real. It's what we were, it's what we are about, what our nation, country is about. And the effect of that is national pride, it's individual pride, family pride. So there's this beautiful cycle that supports each other. and it's lowers your carbon footprint.
And how, just on that topic for a second, how does cuisine actually absorb local culture over hundreds of years? Have you kind of thought about that?
Look, cuisine most definitely evolves, but there is one of my favorite chefs is David Thompson, and he's if you grab his books, right? One of his he has a book that's called, I think it's called Thai Food, right? And it's like an encyclopedia. Half of it is about the history of Thailand, and he managed to get his hands on these historical, not historical, sorry, royal food recipes, and there is so much rich history in it. And it actually tells you about how recipes and Thai cuisine has evolved over the years. And it's phenomenal reading. It really educates you so clearly about what Thai cooking is about, how and why they do it a certain way. It's amazing, and I think also I don't deny that food has evolved. You know, cuisine has evolved as well. But let's not forget the past. Let's hold on to it. Yeah. You can adapt it a little bit, put it on and I was sharing with some friends before. Plating makes a big difference in how the food features, you know, and the eating experience as well.
Tuan Mala, any examples in Laos in particular about how food and tourism has created job opportunities, entrepreneurial opportunities? Some thoughts on that?
Yeah, I must say that during the COVID pandemic, so of course it's make a lot of restaurants close, but we have also the new job creation because the people have to stay home, it's locked down, and then when we want to buy to eat something, and then they have friends saying that, hey, today I do the lab, if you want some, and then I can send to you, you know, this is the, and then it takes longer than we think, 2.5 years. And then some just discover that they can be the cook. They can open the restaurant, but not as a food services, as a second job. So this is something that I think is good also for the young generation that finally, instead to think only about fast food or someone cook for them, that they have to try themselves. That is create some new idea of the business. And also for the existing restaurant, that they have to review themselves. Was it the selling point? Was it the dishes that very famous that they have to check again that they are not changed from the origin. So, and in Laos, we have, for example, I know that Peter stayed in Laos 8 years, so you know many. So, like Khua Lao. Khua Lao is the Lao food restaurant that existing more than 20 years. And this restaurant is really work with the local provider, the ingredients. So, and the food is exactly the same since the day one. And now is the second generation already take over. And we have also the one in Luang Prabang, is the name Manda de Lao. It's the fusion, is between Western and Lao food. It means that they cook Lao food but in Western style. So like when we do the lab, instead to put everything together and then they put beside. And then when they serve, they explain to the customer how to make your own lab. If you don't want to put more spicy and then you put less chili, something like this. Yeah. That is the new trend, I think, then, and the tourists love it because at least, you know, they can understand why they have to put more or less chili.
We're kind of running out of time, but I think one topic that I wanted to talk about, and we were talking about experiential and getting out there and testing all the different food. How can we assure, again on the supply side, that food safety and hygiene standards are at a level that ensures that the tourist isn't going to get sick? Doctor, maybe you can describe that, because it is a Western tourist that comes to Asia will say, I'd love to try the street food, but I might get some sort of a bellyache of some sort. And how do we make sure that that standard is there, or how do we convince the tourists that those standards are in place?
I think this is very, very important question, and very glad that you bring it out. I think that the food safety is the key of success of everything, because of it needs to be, food is delicious. It needs to be good for you. It needs to be clean. It shouldn't be contain any poisons, and that the chef need to be educated, need to be trained well, need to be taught well. If you classically trained in a fancy culinary school, you probably have been told that to separate the chopping board, the green one, the blue one, the red one. Yeah. That is important, because you don't want to mix raw meat with the vegetables. Or first in, first out, keep the food fresh and clean. The date that you made the food, how long it can last, and everything. I think this is a key, and then we have to, I think, obviously it's not all the restaurants going to have, classically trained chef or the chef that have been trained and things. But I think as a restaurant owner, as entrepreneurs, need to be able to consider this, because of your business going to last. If it's consistent, it's good, and it's clean.
Audra, any thoughts?
Peter, I've seen a lot of restaurants, good restaurants. I've been in a lot of kitchens, and there are some shite restaurants, kitchens around, right? But I mean, I quite agree. But when you're looking at street food, you can't control it. I mean, I think what I feel is that the community needs to get behind it as well. Maybe local enterprises or local, I don't know, like local community needs to have sort of sessions where they can bring some of the local vendors in, talk to them, explain to them about how to manage meat, how to manage basically basic health and safety, And I'm going to India next week. I went and saw my GP, and I just got a broadband antibiotics. So 3 days, 1 pill a day, that'll solve all the problems you're going to have. I'm brave, so yeah. Hey, I'll let her have a say, but I just wanted
to go ahead. Yeah, please.
I just wanted to share with you guys how I travel, right? And how a foodie travels. So yesterday morning, I managed to duck away to Kim Yong Markets, and I've always wanted one of these.
What is that? Pestle mortar?
It's a mortar and pestle for...
Oh my gosh!
To make...
That's perfect for som tam.
To make som tam, yes, exactly. And the girls are taking me back shortly. Yes, so you just dump. That's how I travel. That's how I roll.
You get the fish sauce also somewhere.
Yeah, I do.
This is hilarious. This is so good.
So whether this sits on my kitchen bench top or not, it doesn't really matter. It was, it was so inexpensive. But I also got given a gift. And I think when we travel, we talk about buying, things from the country. Yeah. I got given this, and I think this is one of the best gifts you can ever buy for anybody when you visit a country. It was given to me by the lovely Sherpa lady over there.
Yes,
from
indeed.
Nepal.
I got one also, yes.
I've already read a few pages of it, and this is a history about her life as a Sherpa, being in the mountains, working in the mountains for 40 years. This is what helps you understand a country. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. And I think we've run out of time. Duang Mala, thank you for all of your input, and Audra. And now, Armin, are you doing something at the break? I read in this briefing. Could you tell us what you're doing?
So, we can have some refreshment. So in the south of Thailand, we're going to make Thai tea, which is, we have Thai tea, Malay tea, and also Indonesian tea blend together to make a lovely orangey tea, and we serve it with black sticky rice that have been cooked in palm sugar. Oh my gosh! And for the your snacks, well, I think we have a lovely bun with like mushroom and things, and black panna cotta, which is inspired by biak bun, which is very traditional my grandmother recipe.
Sounds delicious. Ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause for our three panelists, and looking forward to the break soon. Back to you, Paul.
Thank you.
And a big round of applause for our moderator, our PATA chair, Peter Simone. Fantastic job. Great job to the panelists. So you've just heard about the coffee break, and that's what we're heading into. So we're going to take a 15-minute coffee break, and Dr. Nauman will do, I think Damwon had already explained what you can expect at the coffee break. So the time now is 5 minutes to 4. So please be back in this room at 10 after 4. So at 4:10, back in here. Go grab some food, go grab a coffee, come right back in here, and I'll see you at that time. Thank you very much, and enjoy the coffee break.